What's up, y'all? Shuffle, and welcome to our first iteration of the Darkest Dungeon 2 tier list for 1.0. And in this video, we'll talk hopefully quickly about the characters, their strengths, weaknesses, and stuff, and how they stack up against each other. And another rule that we're going to have for this list is that there cannot be more than 3 people in a tier. And I really thought about going through the explanation of, the rankings and stuff, but honestly, it's a tier list. It's not a mean tier list, it's just basic power. So we're going to talk about why characters are good and why characters are bad, and that's how I view them. Alright, so this is all subjective, don't blow me up in the comments, you're free to disagree, that's completely fine, but like, some of you get way too heated about this, and I really don't want to deal with that. So, keep it to yourself. Anyway, starting off, we will talk about Plague Doctor, and I have Plague Doctor currently up to A. So Plague Doctor, you start with her healing's consistent, she can remove tokens, and she does pretty good blight damage. She has some weaknesses such as getting knocked out of position, and she's not that good in the fetter. But other than that, all 3 of her powers are pretty good, and her skill set is useful to many teams. You could say S, but I think A is okay. Next up is Grave Robber, my favorite character. Unfortunately, not that good, even with the buffs. The buffs all help her, but by and large, the buffs are all like +2 damage on mastery, except for like glint, and that's good, but it's not enough. She still has like clunky stealth mechanics, repartee, pirouette dazes you, so certain builds like Venom Drop, if you pirouette into flashing daggers to get the bonus damage, you're already going at 5 speed. You daze yourself for the next turn, so your damage over time doesn't kick in till turn 3, and that's just really bad. So she's in a better place, but she's still not amazing, of course. Highwayman is A as well. He is very consistent as a damage dealer, can't get knocked out of position, and has some really good utility. The thing that's keeping him out of S is he's just not broken, so I think he's pretty good there. He's strong, put him on any team. All of his paths are cool and fun, and he can really help you get some consistent wins if you use stuff like Sharp Shot. Next is Man-at-Arms. Easy S tier for Man-at-Arms. Man-at-Arms breaks like so many encounters in this game with the right set of moves. Honestly, if you do not think this character is worthy of S, he's probably the best character in the game, and that is simply because he has an answer to everything. It doesn't matter what the boss is, he has an answer to it. If it gets riposte, he can bellow it off. If there's crit, he can bellow that off. If it moves him, he can use hold the line and immobilize himself. He can stress heal, he can remove tokens, he can guard, can he weaken? I don't even know. He can stun, and he can self heal, and then if you are in a really bad position, he can almost solo some fights because he can do strategic withdrawal, which when mastered and he's a Death Store, gives him speed, block plus, and combos the target, and then he can crush it afterwards to heal. This character's gross. He's insane. Easily the best, I would say. Runaway has had a big fall off. She was looking pretty good for a while, but there's a few things that really hurt her. So she doesn't really have a good frontline setup anymore. You could use Arsonist plus Dragonfly's okay, but you have to make sure the other people on the team can keep pushing her around where she needs to be. Stealth got changed, so it can't easily win fights if she's the only one left, and her other stuff like Smokescreen's really good, Firefly's really good, Controlled Burn's okay, Backdraft got nerfed, Ransack's not good, Searing Strike is not good, Hearthlight's only good in a couple spots. So there's a lot of issues that she faces, and in terms of stuffing someone in rank 4 and just throwing damage over time out, there are better characters like Plague Doctor or just anyone else that can do range damage. But I mean, if you run Arsonist and get some burn trinket, she pops off, but you can say that about anyone. Right path, right team, right items, they're good. And then Cauterize, unfortunately, is starting to slip in terms of usefulness as more healers are introduced to the game. So I would like to see some runaway buffs desperately. And Survivor's not good as a path. Sorry. Hellion is starting to fall finally, because we're seeing that with more and more nerfs to like Howling End, the worse this character becomes, because she's pretty much held up by that. She's held up by 3 things primarily. It's Howling End, toe-to-toe, and her self-healing. And so if you start taking away the damage from Howling End or the usefulness, you know, it's got a bigger cooldown and stuff, and moves her now, which isn't that big of a deal, but it also doesn't penetrate block. So that means that she's just progressively getting worse and worse. So she needs some help, and hopefully she gets it soon. But honestly, if they gut her self-healing, she's gone. That's it. She is completely out of the running for serious viability. Jester is the best, or not best character, but one of the best for sure. So he can move himself, move your team. He's fast, or he can be fast. Does bleed. He can generate dodge, blind, stuff like that. It's really good. He can remove combo, buff your team. He can give anyone extra turns. That's always going to be his best thing, because extra actions are just busted, honestly. And when you look at Encore, you go, okay, someone gets an extra turn. Who really cares? Because you trade Jester's turn. But the way to think about Encore is that Encore can be any other move in the game. Encore can be take aim, Encore could be burning stars, Encore could be another heal. It could be whatever the heck you have on your team at that moment. And that is very powerful. Plus, when they get the extra turn, it doesn't trigger things like damage over time, you know, so they're safe if they're in a sticky situation, for instance. So he goes on any team. He has a very powerful single target stress heal. He's just really good. He's a very good character. Let's see, who's next? Leper. This was tough. I almost wanted to swap Leper and Hellion, and you still could, honestly. Those two are pretty neck and neck to me. And Leper faces some issues. His damage isn't high enough to warrant the blinds that he gets. And so you can, like, the best thing to do with them is to turn him into just kind of a punching bag. So you use like Bash, and then Withstand, Intimidate. All those are really good moves. Solemnity's good. But the only issue is that Man-at-Arms kind of does it better. And so because of that, I'm not saying that Man-at-Arms is just better Leper. I'm saying that if you want to tank, Man-at-Arms does a better job at it. And if you want to do damage, Leper's damage is average. He's balanced around blinding himself, but even the payoff for, you know, hitting through it or being able to consistently hit hard doesn't quite equal out. You know, again, same thing as I said before with Runaway. If you get him the right team, you make him Tempest, and you have Jester feeding him combo, something like that, yeah, he'll do really good. But that you can do that to anyone. You can power up anyone and they'll be good. So just looking at him in a vacuum is what we're doing. Occultist. Poor old Occultist still needs some help. Got no buffs in the 1.0 patch, so I'm hoping a big redesign is coming his way. But really, the unchecked power mechanic is just kind of a gimmick at this point. Like, Malediction's not usable. Spirant is pretty much what you need to do if you want to make Anamnesis any good, because it's not really that good on its own. And so really your unchecked power dump is Burning Stars. And if you're not running Burning Stars, then you're not using unchecked power. There's no other point to run it. And Weird Reconstruction is such a bad heal. Like, on most characters, it's a net negative because it only heals, you know, like 33%, or it heals more when it's upgraded. So it's okay with a mastery and ritualist and stuff, but again, right team, right path, stuff like that. And so a lot of the characters like Runaway, Grave Robber, you know, who have mid 30s HP with buffs and stuff, Highwayman's got like low 40s. You know, this 33% Weird Reconstruction is healing for like 13, like 9 to 13, and it's bleeding for 9. So it's a net negative in so many cases. And if you're running if you're running Occultist, take off Weird, take off the other unchecked power moves, unless you're going to use, you know, Burning Stars, and this character feels a lot better. But even then, he's pretty much like a one-trick pony, kind of like how Hellion wanted Howling End the whole time. He wants stars the whole time. Alright. So now we got Bounty Hunter. This was a little tough to rate. You could argue Bounty Hunter is... he might still be S. I didn't have him S originally. I'm gonna swap someone out of S, I think. So Bounty Hunter is still really good because he's really tanky. He has a lot of control. He has no setup stuns. And he has a lot of stuff he can do from any position. You know, he's got his debuffs, he's got guard, he can mark, he can pull stuff, he can do damage, he can stun, like I said, and he can do that wherever he is. So if you build him for the fight that he's going into, then he really has an answer to everything. And so I think the only major weakness Bounty Hunter has is his damage floor is very high, but his damage ceiling is very low. He's a lot like Highwayman in that regard, where he'll do consistent damage, but he has like low crit rates, and his damage ranges are very tight, but they're not high. Like they cap out at 12 and 10 and stuff. So he can't, you know, do even Hellion with like Ravager, combo, strength, Vuln can wicked hack for like 50. And it's very hard for, actually I think Bounty Hunter can probably get close to that, but you know. So he's still really good and definitely deserving of S. I almost had him in A, and you're gonna see, I'll explain why in a minute. Vestal is B though, and Vestal kind of struggles, honestly. She doesn't have an offense to speak of. Like even if you stack up the tokens in Mace Bash or Judgment, it doesn't do enough. So usually it's better to just dump the Conviction into heals or something. And her support kit is very good. So basically all of her damage comes from giving someone else Consecration of Light. And then she has other support stuff like tanking and stuff, which is good. But with more healing being added to the game through Flagellant, her job isn't as important or exclusive anymore. Because before, her biggest competition was Plague Doctor. And now she has more competition. Like Flagellant. Flagellant was going to be the other S tier instead of Bounty Hunter at first, but the more I thought about it, I moved him down. And the real reason is because Flagellant doesn't do a ridiculous amount of damage in a damage-centric game. He does good damage, he does enough damage to get through, but it's not enough compared to, you know, what other damage dealers are capable of. His best thing about him though is he is very hard to kill. He's got higher DBR, he can heal himself for, no joke, up to like 95% of his HP in the right situation. He can just jump right back up, so it'll be like a half HP sepsis and 3 stacks of pain tokens that are upgraded, so that's, you know, 95. That's like the top end, and that's crazy. This dude can just shoot back up to full health at any point if he really needs to. And melting down doesn't really impact him that much, and he can turn negative tokens into something he needs to be stronger. So he's really good, much like the first game. He's really good in the situations where you're getting beat up really bad, and that's really cool that they retain that identity. So I almost recommend unlocking him early as a new player, just because he can deal with skill issues in terms of, you know, taking damage and stuff better than others. Although you still run the risk of skill issuing and killing him because you aren't quite in tune with what he's doing and his cooldowns. So that's it. Make it short and sweet. There's our inaugural tier list. Let me know what you're thinking down below in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.